All right, folks, happy Wednesday. Welcome to another edition of XenTegra's Webinar Wednesdays. Today, I got a great guest, and I'm excited to have these guys on. We have our friends from Ivanti on today. We're going to be talking about, how you do more with your devices, but make security the focus. And one of the things we're going to focus on is how Ivanti is very user-friendly when it comes to security. We're going to talk about a lot of other cool things Ivanti's doing as well. So I'm very excited with my panelists today. So my name is Pete Downing, the CMTO and host of Webinar Wednesdays. For those who don't know me, welcome. For those who are returning, welcome back. And I got a great panelist of guests today, and also just a couple shout outs today. So the first guest I'd like to introduce is a friend of mine who he and I worked at Res Software back in the day before it was acquired by Ivanti. James. So James, you want to give yourself a quick intro and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Pete, you're putting me up on a pedestal a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to live up to the expectation. Yeah, but I'm a sales engineer at Ivanti. Like you said, I worked at Res, so Res got acquired by Ivanti a little more than 2 years ago, and I'm still part of the team. Really, what I'm here to do is help customers understand what we do and equip our partners to be able to talk about that value proposition and support you guys.
Yeah, and thanks for taking time out of your day. I know you're busy, so. Also on the line, I got a great employee of mine, and Megan works with me. So I want to let Megan introduce herself, just because first time being in my office and hanging out with me on one of these. So.
Hey guys, it's Megan here. You probably have gotten a bunch of emails from me about Grubhub and everything, so it's great to actually be on one of these. So I look forward to it.
And next up, we got Everett, who's our channel manager. Everett, you want to give yourself a quick intro?
Hey, thanks, Pete. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Hey, I appreciate your introduction, and thanks for hosting Ivanti. Looking forward to the conversation and the discussion. Obviously my responsibility is to work closely with the team at XenTegra, and really appreciate you guys giving us this opportunity. So Pete, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And fun question, because I know you're in Alabama. Who do you root for?
Roll Tide.
Nice. All right, and then a little shout out to Trish. Trish has been great. She's the field marketing manager we've been working with at Ivanti. She couldn't join us today, but love giving her a shout out just because she's been integral to helping us get this going as well. So thanks to my panelists for joining. Again, we encourage question and answer in the go to webinar. We have our Q&A dialog box. Please ask questions. The reason why I say that is because the questions actually get recorded. So when we follow up with you, we can see if you asked that question, and we can follow up more if needed. So please ask questions as we go through today's session. For those who are new to go to webinar, just put in the Q&A dialog, hit send, and I'm going to be monitoring that the whole time. So today's agenda is very simple. We just do a quick round of polls and have a little fun, and then I'm going to hand it off to James and let him do his thing. So nothing too crazy here. We keep it simple on Webinar Wednesdays. All right, so if you haven't already, XenTegra, events.XenTegra.com. We have a lot of great events, one-day workshops, half-day workshops, webinars, etc. The list is going to continue to grow. We're working on building out the list for 2021. Can't believe I'm saying that out loud, but keep an eye out for some new events that we're going to be launching towards the end of the year as pilots, and also into 2021. Podcast.XenTegra.com. If you like podcasts, Andy, our founder and CEO, actually does two great podcasts. One that's focused on Citrix and one that is focused on VMware. So again, check out podcast.XenTegra.com. Also, he and I monthly do a WVD monthly update. So if you love listening to podcasts or have a long commute, or you just like to listen to podcasts, please do. Webinars.XenTegra.com. We have a lot of great webinars coming up. I got a special guest in the month of December. I'm going to be pulling on, so I'm going to be launching that the next day or two. So keep an eye out for that. And yes, I'm going to be doing some fun giveaways in December because, heck, it's Christmas time, so why not? But that said, we do give Grubhub credits as part of attending our webinars. Please be patient with Megan. When we get 100 plus attendees, we try to get the credits out as fast as possible. And we do require that you give us a business email. So please be nice when we reach out, because we're just trying to make sure you are who you say you are. All right, so as we all know, last month I was doing a couple giveaways. I was giving away an LG Gram laptop. LG is a great partner of ours. I love this laptop. It's very light. It's a great laptop, and we're giving away. We gave away one last month. And we also gave away a nice North Face Ridgeline jacket that has the XenTegra logo and a XenTegra hat. So the winners are, so the first prize, the laptop's going to Terry O'Neill. The next prize is going to be going to Justin Anderson, and the final prize will be going to David Prowse. So if you guys are on the call, we'll be reaching out to you at some point in the next day or so. So congrats to the winners of last month's giveaway. And I will be reaching out, and Megan and I will figure out the logistics of how to get the prizes to you. All right, so feeling a little generous this month. November 2020 giveaways. We are going to be giving away one or the other. So if you're an Apple person, you can, the Pro Max just came out. I'm still skeptical on the whole 5G thing, but that's just me. And or the Samsung Galaxy. So you get to pick what device you want if you win it. So that's prize number one. Prize number two, I'm giving away another jacket, and then prize number three, a XenTegra hat. Now, December, we're gonna have some other cool giveaways, so you definitely want to keep an eye out on that. And we're gonna be doing some other giveaways with some other events we're doing, so keep your email, an eye on your email. All right, and then finally, bronco.xentegra.com. You definitely want to check out that page. I'll explain some ways you can get into that drawing later on today. So just keep on the call, and I'll tell you how you can get into this drawing and some of the requirements you got to meet to get into the Bronco campaign and potentially win a 2021 Ford Bronco. All right, so as you guys know, I love polls, I love data, and it helps James and I have some anecdotes as we go through today's session. So let's talk through some of the polls I have. First poll, very simple one, just to get the audience warmed up. My enterprise is an Ivanti customer today. So just to kind of get a feel for how many customers do we have on the line today. So again, as you answer these, the answers are anonymous. We can't see the data. No one else can see the data. So don't worry, as you click, your name is not going to pop up and say, Pete answered the poll. So just bear that in mind. Also, if you're on the web version, sometimes the polls don't work. If you full screen it, it works apparently. So unfortunately, I can't fix that. And I'll give a couple more seconds on this poll. So going once, going twice. The audience is very interactive today. I love it. And last call for clicks. All right. So we got a few customers, but a lot of no's. So hopefully you walk away with this with some food for thought. I know James will be talking about some of the new strategies that Ivanti's doing. I'm excited because it'll be the first time I've heard it as well. So I'll have some questions potentially. All right. So the next question. My enterprise uses one or more of the following products. So again, if you're in that 20%, answers, if you use them all, tick them all. If you don't use them all, so this is a multi-selection answer and just curiosity question on which product you use. And I have a guess on what the answer is going to be the highest, what the top two are minus the none. But I'll give this a couple more seconds. Going once, going twice, and last call for clicks. And done. So LandDesk always seems to be the lion's share, right? So if you're a legacy LandDesk customer, you've evolved into the Ivanti story. I think it's awesome. It's funny, I used to sell against LandDesk when I was at a company called Manasoft back in the day. So very familiar with that landscape. If you're a Res or Absence customer, I used to, James and I actually worked at Res together. I was in product management and he was in sales. And so just fun little anecdotes there. All right, my enterprise enables local administrator rights at the endpoint, and I'll explain why I'm asking this later. But it's funny. I always laugh when I hear that customers give their users full admin rights, and I know James will talk a little bit about privilege management and what Ivanti's doing to help you solve that, but also have it be user friendly as well. So I'll give this a couple seconds to get some clicks going here. And again, I always make some fun answers. No, we don't trust our users. I don't think you should trust your users. You never know what they're going to click, right? All right, going once, going twice. Last call for clicks. And a lot of no's, so that's good, but we have a lot of yeses. So let's talk about, how do we help mitigate the need for administrative rights? And I'm talking even admins, right? If you're going through PCI compliance or you're going through some kind of certification, admin rights is a big deal. So even if your admins have rights. All right, so next poll. My enterprise has an effective way to patch all applications outside of Windows, so third-party applications. And there's a method to my madness of why I'm asking this, but Ivanti along the way, well, Landesk along the way acquired a great product called Shavlik. So patch management is a key story around the security, etc. of the Ivanti stack. So I'm excited to talk about this today. All right, last call for clicks, and so we got a lot of no's. So that's a good sign, James. So I'm excited about that, but a lot of yeses. So the question is, I'd be curious to see what you're using to do that and see how you're doing it today, and is it really effective? All right, let's talk about whitelist and blacklisting. So my enterprise has an effective way to whitelist and blacklist applications at the endpoint. So this could be everything from they click on a piece of malware they're not supposed to they're trying to install an application, right? And this could be cert based, it could be hash based, it could be a combination of both. That's pretty integral, right? And you look at Office 365, right? Drive-by installs, how do you deal with that? A lot of stuff, and I got stories around that. When I was at Res, we helped build, James, I and a couple of the other guys helped build the security product there. All right, so we got a lot of yeses. So I'm curious to dig a little deeper there, but a lot of no's. So almost a pretty good number of no's. All right, last poll, and we'll jump in. My enterprise security methods are user-friendly, AKA our users love security. And that was a fun question, but be honest here. Like, do your users like your security measures? Do they complain? How do you make it easier for them? And that's really a big focus, right? How do we make security user-friendly? All right, last call for clicks. Going once, going twice, and that is it. So a lot of you said no, because let's face it, our users hate security. So the question is, how do we make security user-friendly? All right, so those are my polls for today. Thanks for playing, and great anecdotes that we may reference throughout the day today. I'm excited. All right, if you're not following Ivanti and or XenTegra on social media, please do. LinkedIn, whatever your flavor of choice is. And yes, this session gets recorded and eventually will make its way up to our YouTube channel. So if you want to go check out our YouTube channel, we have a great archive of all the webinars we've done, past and present, and cannot wait to get this up there. And Ivanti actually has two up there as well. So it's fun to see the evolution. All right, so we're going to dive into Ivanti, and as we're diving in, I'm going to hand the controls over to James and say, James, thanks for jumping on today and presenting. I'm excited to see what you're going to be presenting today, and you should be able to share your screen now, and I'm excited. So James, it's your floor, and have fun, and I'll throw some questions in as they come in.
Awesome, wonderful. Great polls there. Not talking about patching today, but I feel like maybe I should have been. But obviously reach out to Pete and team, and they can help you with that dialogue around how we can help you with third-party patching. So what I'm going to be presenting about today is how do we enable our users to do more, be productive, without risking and compromising the security that you want to put in force. The challenge is always maintaining that balance between user productivity and security. And I think that the problems that we're seeing are being accelerated by the fact that more people are working from home. This new normal with COVID, it really changes the way that we deliver IT services and security. And even if you think about getting hardware out to an end user and supporting it. So like what Pete said, I'm James Slavos. I'm a senior sales engineer. We work together at Res. Just a little background about myself. I used to be a consultant myself. So I worked at a nationwide platinum partner, and I did a lot of VDI, Citrix, Zen server, even remote desktop services and VMware projects. So that is my first discipline and first love when it came to technology, was really working in that virtualization environment. And if you want to reach out to me, my contact info's right there. But where I'm going to start is I want to talk about the common problems that we're hearing from customers, and this is pretty recent. I revisited this based upon the modern issues that we're seeing today. So talking to one of my customers, he was saying that historically they only had about 5% of their employees working from home. Now they have 97% of their employees working from home, and that's going to continue for what they said now another 18 months most likely. How do I manage devices over the internet? The reality is that people don't VPN in, so you kind of lose connectivity of being able to see how that device is being used, as well as supporting that user, right? What's that end user support experience? How do we enable our help desk, our desktop engineers to be able to support users and devices? A lot of organizations are looking at Autopilot. So we have a sort of traditional sort of desktop delivery model, most organizations, where they're imaging devices, right? They have devices in stock rooms. They're using MDT or other tools to be able to layer an image down to the device that has the corporate branded experience. But as you move to a more agile model, where you're using Autopilot and shipping devices directly to users, that really changes the way that you need to deliver those policies and security rules to the users. How do I securely allow access to data? So people working from home, a lot of organizations really rely on file servers for collaboration and shares. Users are used to home directories. So how do I allow users to be able to access that data, potentially without a VPN connection, in a secure fashion? So if they're pulling data back onto their devices, how do I know and verify the integrity of that data and ensure that if I lose that device, that I'm not putting my business in a situation with data loss and compliance issues? And then how do I improve the ROI of my hardware, right? So how do I get better use out of hardware as they purchase it and optimize that spend? So one of the key things that I'm hearing from customers is around Autopilot. So Microsoft launched this probably about 2 years ago. They were talking about it a little bit longer. They're looking at modern device management, how to do CSPs to be able to manage device. And I think customers were really exploring this, and it caught the attention of executives. He talked to the CIO. This is what he's hearing from Microsoft, is that this is going to change the game, the way that we manage desktops. And so your traditional way is, of course, you build out your image, you layer it down, and you deploy all of your applications to that desktop. And for the most part, it's an effective way when you have a lot of devices and users on network and they're consolidated to one or a handful of locations. But that desktop delivery model just doesn't really scale the way that people work now. And what Microsoft is saying, and we agree with this, that there's an opportunity here to completely change your supply chain model for devices and be able to ship them directly to end users, have that out-of-box experience, and have them be productive without IT being plugged into that process to babysit. So there's a lot of benefit in doing that, but I think the reality is that it's just not as easy as adding Autopilot to your provisioning process and shipping devices to users. There's other factors that need to be taken into account that allow you to manage that experience and the security of the devices and users. So to give you an example, one of my customers, they told me that their traditional provisioning process, by the time that a device was in an end user's hand, they had already utilized 10% of that device's useful life. So they do three-year refreshes for hardware, and typically it was 3 or 4 months into the life cycle, the warranty of that device before an end user had it. That's not a really good return on investment. When you think about that, if it's a $1,000 laptop, that's $100 that you're burning before you can even get any ROI off of it. So there is benefit here, right? So if you're able to ship a device directly to a user, that optimizes the useful life of that device. It allows you to get much more value at a lower spend. The other thing is that if you're able to unlock this model, what you're able to do is increase that user productivity. So this is from Microsoft here. They believe that that Autopilot, this sort of model, can improve user productivity by 90%. Now, I say that's difficult to achieve without the right technology to support some of the things that we'll go into. Now, another thing is around IT efficiencies. So Gartner finds that the cost to replace a device can be between $256 to $445 per device. Now, why there's such a gap in that price estimate is all about your process and the technology that you use to migrate devices and replace them. So at a device level, you have to think about, well, how do we brand that device and ensure that it's got the corporate policies and standards in place? How do we deliver the application to the user? How do we handle things like user personalization and even data that may need to be migrated from one device to another? So on the low end, 256 cost right there, that's a more automated and secure desktop delivery model. However, if you're in a state where you're throwing IT labor to be able to copy data back from one device to another, then you're going to be looking at a much higher cost for a migration or PC refresh, $445 according to Gartner. And I think this is even more challenging for people working from home, because what I'm hearing from customers is they're doing things like shipping a loader laptop to the user, then they're guiding the user through the process and how to back up that data from one device to another, shipping out getting a copy of the original device from the user, managing it on the back end, and then shipping the permanent device to the user. So you're talking about shipping the devices back and forth multiple times. You're talking about having the user copy data. You're talking about maybe IT doing some of that for the user. It's an expensive value proposition. So the reality is that it's much more expensive to support users that are remote, and the same thing goes for hardware and infrastructure management, being able to support those devices. I don't know, Pete, do you have anything you want to add here based upon your experience and what you're hearing from customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny. We were talking about something that I know is very deep in the DNA of kind of automation, is the onboarding and offboarding of a customer, and that kind of falls into your first bucket of user productivity, right? So there's not just, people always get lost in the notion of, hey, I just got to get a device out to the user, get them email, and it's done, right? No, there's other systems that your user may need access to get up and running. And I know that's something that's very integral to, your help desk process and your ITSM process. And so that's something that I'm seeing a lot of, is the onboarding and offboarding of different systems now, because some of the systems are growing, like Zoom, Teams, et cetera. And how do you track access, et cetera, on top of that. But yeah, no, it's pretty, I love automation, and my philosophy is if you can put automation around anything and make anybody's lives a little easier, heck, why not, but something that came up in the chat, and I don't know if you're going to cover this at all, but it came up, is how do you share data securely through mobile devices? And I think you may talk about this a little later, but when you start talking about kind of the endpoints, but that's something, just keep that in the back of your mind as you're talking through some of the security stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're talking about that end user experience, I think what's key there is that self-service experience, right? It has to be a great user experience. It has to be repeatable. That's the only way that you're going to get adoption from your business users.
Yep, I agree.
Right. So I had a customer once say this via email. They said, if do, how? I think he was trying to say, if so, how? But I mean, it sounds great. Yeah, Autopilot, let's do it today. There's your CIO on the right. He's trying to pull you in one direction. You guys are saying, hey, no, we don't have the right technology in place. Because when you think about that Autopilot experience, the reality is that what you're getting on that out-of-box experience on a device is not desirable from a business productivity standpoint. So, Windows 10, you have to worry about the Windows Store. And the fact is that the Windows Store could be a really great way to enable the business to be more productive, to have new tools and new applications. But how do you walk that fine line between what they can use from the Windows Store and what do you not want to allow access to? Also think about modern applications. So on that device, you're going to be getting software delivered by Microsoft automatically. You got video games right there. You have productivity tools. You have, your Netflix, your Disney Plus sort of applications. That bloatware, that experience. So we're used to this model where we're imaging the machine. We're stripping that all out. But you don't have that luxury when you're doing an out-of-box experience via Autopilot. The next thing, and we touch base with this with the polls, and it's good to hear that a lot of companies don't allow local admin rights. It's definitely least privilege is the way to go. But the challenge that I'm hearing from customers is that being able to allow certain things to occur on that device in a secure fashion is very challenging. So if you think about people working from home that need to do things like install drivers, print drivers, that need to install other components to the device, or perhaps there's a need to install software that you may want to trust, different sort of administrative tasks. And what I'm hearing from customers is allowing the help desk to support that. That's a costly engagement, being able to remotely control that device, schedule time with the end user to get the right software, the right drivers installed, and get that configured. So think about self-service. How do we empower the user to do that? How do we govern what should be allowed and what's not allowed? We'll talk about how we can help that as well.
So James, quick question, because I don't want it to get lost. And actually, this is a great thing too, is around data access. But so when you talk about Autopilot, how do you guys kind of plug in? So someone asked about, can you use Autopilot with Intune? And then how do you guys, I guess, plug in or work alongside of Intune or integrate with Intune? Because I know Intune is a big piece, and in the cloud now it's called enterprise management. So how do you guys fit with the whole Intune / enterprise management story around Microsoft?
Yeah, sure. So Intune is a modern management solution, and really that's designed to be able to manage those devices over the internet and without having direct line of sight of it. So of that device. So there's a lot of benefits, especially with COVID, people working from home. Microsoft's building out their CSPs. One of the nice things is that we can do that modern management, so you don't have to use Intune. If you're a LAN desk customer, there were a lot on this call. You can leverage our modern management capabilities. It uses the APIs from Microsoft, so you have the same capabilities in the solution. It's just managed through our console, unified sort of solution of doing the traditional systems management and the modern management. So there's a lot of different options. You can use our product with Intune as well. But the key thing is that when you're going through that out-of-box experience, and what you're doing is you're enrolling that device into some sort of MDM, modern management solution, whether it's Intune or ours or VMware or Citrix. It really doesn't really make a difference. The next step is through that modern management solution, you're going to want to start deploying administrative tools to be able to control these things. So I'll be talking about data access as a key area, right? So if I'm delivering an out-of-box experience to an end user and they already have documents that they've created, that they have a home directory, they have data shares that they want to access, how do we deliver that? And so we have a product around there that helps called File Director, which is essentially a data broker that works over the internet to OneDrive, to Box, to Google Drive, and your traditional SMB shares. So I'll talk, more on the solution, and then we'll go into some demos. So what we would recommend if these topics are resonating with you is take a look at User Workspace Manager, or User Workspace Management. So if you look at things like Intune, you look at Microsoft SCCM, if you look at Endpoint Manager by Ivanti, the LAN desk product, Those products are really designed to manage the desktop experience, the actual computer itself, the hardware, the software that's installed. What this product is really designed around is that end user experience. What can we deliver from a desktop configuration standpoint? How do we deliver policies, group policies to an endpoint? If you really think about a device remotely, thinking about out of box, in Autopilot experience, you don't have that luxury of being able to update the image and define local policies that you want to enforce, or even potentially you may have to move away from group policies. You may have to move away from your logon scripts. So what this product gives you that ability to do is manage those policies without having direct connectivity to the device, without that VPN connection. So whether it's an Active Directory device or an Azure AD device, or it's not even connected to any domain, we can manage that desktop experience, those policies, to keep that device secure. There's also a user personalization component, which allows you to seamlessly move the user's customizations from one desktop to another desktop, so that they can have the same experience inside their applications, the same shortcuts, the same favorites that they're used to. Now, this is a big win for our customers that are doing VDI. If you're thinking about non-persistent desktops, you're thinking about, well, how do I maintain the same experience on inside of Citrix or VMware, as well as on the laptop or traditional desktop? This user personalization is a great technology there as well, because we can personalize that experience regardless of where that user is logging into. And of course, whitelisting and privilege management. So what do I want to allow the user to run, right? Do I trust what they're downloading to be installed? Maybe I want to authorize certain things to be allowed on the device based upon who the vendor, who the manufacturer of the software is. Maybe I want to allow certain components inside of Windows to auto-elevate, like the ability to install printers. So I'm enabling productivity. I have that ability to slice and dice the security policies the way that I need to enable the business to be productive without increasing the risk. And then file access. So this is our file director technology that I was just referring to. So what we can do is be able to present all of the user's documents and all the shares that the user needs access to, both things inside of your network as well as OneDrive, Box, and Google Drive, seamlessly inside of that desktop experience. And I know from working with customers, OneDrive is a great thing, right? So 1 terabyte of storage, how do we leverage that? But the reality is that the OneDrive client isn't a great experience. I've heard of customers having login issues with the OneDrive client. I know it doesn't work well for Windows 7 and for Server 2012. So how do I really roll that out if there's client compatibility issues? How do I roll out OneDrive inside of the VDI environment even? It's definitely difficult to do. So we solve those problems so that you can have secure access to the user's data as well as collaboration data.
So James, it's a great question that may lead you into some more conversation here. But so again, we're talking about user workspace management here, which I think so. The question came up around which product does a customer need to deploy Microsoft Autopilot with Ivanti? So I'm guessing workspace management is one piece, and I'm guessing there's another piece as well.
I would say it depends. Yeah, workspace management is definitely an area to look at because that's going to be able to automate the user personalization. So if you recall that slide where we were talking about Gartner's estimate of what that desktop migration process is, if you really want to move down to that $250 threshold, this sort of technology is what's going to solve those gaps that you have, where you don't have to throw IT labor at copying user data over. You can ship a device directly to a user seamlessly to deliver that experience. User workspace management, obviously you need a way to deliver software, so some sort of systems management technology, whether it's SCCM or one of our products like Endpoint Manager. or even, which segues us into the next slide, which is Ivanti neurons. So what I'm hearing from customers is, how do I equip my technicians to solve problems quicker, right? Especially when users are remote, that's really challenging to get good diagnostic data to empower that technician to solve problems without escalating tickets to an engineer. And how do I even have command and control of that device over the internet? And that's where this modern platform that we recently launched solves a lot of problems. Is Ivanti Neurons is a hyper automation platform that's really designed to aggregate data from different data systems so that you can solve problems quicker. So there's artificial intelligence built into this platform. It is a SaaS native solution. So it's really designed with the future in mind. How do I manage devices on the edge? How do I manage devices over the internet? How do I support IoT devices? So this platform is really about identifying what do you own, what's in your network, what's outside your network. How do I support those devices through an IT workspace? Maybe there's certain things I want to auto heal or automatically solve through a self-healing module, as well as maybe I want some intelligence into how I'm patching those devices, or even things like building out a CMDB and identifying, are you getting good value out of your software titles and optimizing your spend. I don't know, Pete, did that answer your question? I'm going to jump into the demo in a moment.
Yeah, no, this is perfect. And so again, Neurons is going to be the platform, if you will, that will help solve kind of the end-to-end of, deploying, Windows. And one of the things, I think we need to be cognizant of, James, is as we go to, remote work, we're dealing with endpoints that could be non-corporate owned as well. And curious, as you go through, how does Ivanti deal with that? The non-corporate owned scenario, right? Obviously that's where remote desktops come into play, like VDI, so Citrix and VMware, WVD, right? And you guys, everything we're talking about can be applied to a virtual machine as well. And in fact, I would argue the Workspace component is a great shim into, VDI and the end user compute world. And a lot of these other pieces here play very nicely as well into, end user compute.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So
when you're looking, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say cool. So I'm excited to see what you're gonna demo. I haven't seen a demo of Ivanti in a long time, so I'm very excited. So
yeah, great, thank you. Yeah, I'm always excited to demo myself. So where I'll start is I'm just going to start in a Windows desktop experience, and so what I'm going to be showing you guys first is that we have that User Workspace Manager solution installed here. And I'm using a VMware Horizon View, but it works inside of VDI for Citrix as well. It works Windows Virtual Desktops. So whatever your desktop delivery model is, we'll support it, of course. So I'm already logged in. I'm logged in with the user Zdeno Chara. A little shout out to Pete and his Boston love, where he's from. But
I love it.
Yeah, so I thought you would. So really what we're talking about here, User Workspace Management, we're talking about personalizing that desktop experience. We're talking about delivering those policies that you expect, that you want to enforce to the users, to ensure security, as well as the corporate experience that you want to manage for your users. So I'm not using anything native from Microsoft other than the operating system, but what I'm doing here is I'm personalizing the workspace based upon who this person is. So notice that on Zdeno Chara, he's actually a hockey player who plays for the Boston Bruins, and that's what we're seeing for a wallpaper here. So this is a policy that I'm dynamically applying based upon an Active Directory group. Now, this workspace product has triggers built into it. You can determine whether the user's on network, off network, is it an ICA session, an RDP session, is it a local session, Azure AD properties such as groups, really any piece of data as well as custom rules can be used as triggers to deliver different policies. It's not relying on the traditional group policy capabilities where you're really restricted based upon user and device and loopback processing to deliver policies. So some of the things that I'm doing is I'm delivering drives here. So what's really exciting about these drives that I'm delivering is that they're based upon using the file director technology. So in this scenario, I do have direct connectivity to these network shares. However, this could be over the internet. I just need to put my file director appliance into the DMZ, and then I can have proxy access securely to those on-premise resources. As well as these drives, the home directory or collaboration shares. Like what I said, it could be something that you have inside of OneDrive, Google Drive, or Box. So this works as a great way to broker connectivity to those data shares, as well as it provides a migration platform if you're trying to move from on-premise storage and unlock that 1 terabyte of storage that you're entitled to if you have an Office 365 contract. Some of the other things that I'm doing here is that I'm delivering things like printers. We don't see one at the moment, but I can actually define rules to real-time map different resources based upon the application starting. So we're able to track process start information and process end information to dynamically deliver policies. I'm also doing things like I'm restricting the exit button here. So inside of an application, I can lock it down. Now, maybe your use case is more about, I'm worried about data loss prevention, so I want to block the ability to print from certain applications. And then I'm turning on things like the word wrap automatically. So I'm branding, group policies and registry keys as these applications launch. So not only am I not using group policy to do this, I'm not running all the policies at logon. I'm able to associate policies to specific applications that delivers a much more optimized user experience, faster logon. And of course, if I never use that application again, it never runs again, right? So it's an auto cleanup feature, which you don't get with group policy and Active Directory. So all of this stuff, it works over the internet. So if you're doing that Autopilot experience, what am I doing here? I'm delivering secure access to data immediately. I'm delivering my group policies and my security preferences. I'm optimizing the desktop experience and the way that applications interact with policies. Now, you may have seen on the desktop here, I have some shortcuts, documents, a little check mark. This is an optional feature for a file director. It's just showing me whether that data is backed up. So we'll go through the process of demonstrating how easy it is to, from an end user experience, how seamless it is to be able to have this data backed up. So what we do is as data is written out to the local disk, we monitor that, and then we'll immediately back it up to your target location. So that's what we're seeing here. It's bidirectional traffic, right? So if I'm a user and I move to a new device, which we'll do here in a moment, it will actually retrieve that data and pull it back down to the device either real time as the user access that document, or you can force it all to be pulled down automatically if you're going through a PC refresh process, for example. So I love this technology. It makes OneDrive capable inside of Citrix and VMware VDI and Windows Virtual Desktop. It's really optimized for that experience, but it works great for work at home, so I don't need that VPN connection to broker connectivity to my data. So what I'll do here is I'll just minimize this desktop. Is there a question, Pete?
Yeah, so just a quick question around the, because you were talking about files. So maybe I'll ask it a different way. So like, how does file access fit with kind of like a non-owned or remote laptop. So basically what I'm hearing is you don't need VPN to access those files, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
maybe for later, can you talk about how this could potentially tie into kind of MDM, right? Because for those on the call who don't realize it, Ivanti bought Mobile Iron back in September. So curious to maybe end cap with, how does Mobile Iron going to fit into this whole story eventually? And if you can't answer it, I get it, because I've been through an acquisition, so I know sometimes you don't always have the answer, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the answer at this time, and that's going to be apparent as we as we. The best way to put it is the ink is not dry yet on the acquisition, so it needs to be signed off by different governing bodies globally. So we're expecting that to complete before end of year, probably early December, and then we can really work on our integration strategy. But you're absolutely right when it comes to MDM and BYO playing into this, because what you're able to do with File Director, for example, is you're able to install the File Director agent, and you can control this administratively whether you want to allow this to happen or not. But you can install the app on an iOS or an Android device. You can install the app on a Windows or Mac device, and if you're allowing BYO access, once that device is enrolled, then you can start accessing that data. You can also collaborate and share data through that platform as well, which you can't really do with traditional SMB storage, right? You can't easily share a document with an external person. You can enable those policies to allow people to do that, and then you also have the governance to see what they are sending outside of the network, what devices are accessing that data. Especially if our agent's installed, we have command and control over that data. I can remotely wipe that data or lock it down temporarily if I lose a device.
Awesome.
If we have time, I'll show you that feature.
All right, yeah, we got about 5 minutes, so if you want to,
oh boy,
keep that in the back of your mind. It's fun. I love doing demos with you because you always have the answers. So.
Yeah. So I just want to show that here's my data. It's synchronized over. It's not locally because I don't have that turned on. We talked about application admin rights earlier. So built in, we can restrict applications from running. So I'm blocking MMC for users. I'm also blocking the Windows apps. So I'm just restricting all of them. But you could authorize certain ones to run based upon different policies. Let me show you the remote wipe feature real quick. So if I wanted to remotely wipe data, gotta log in. I can go into the File Director console, and I can see my users and devices that have connected to the environment. And then if I wanted to search for Zdeno Chara, I can see this user, I can see which device is connected, whether they're verified or not. They're corporate devices, so they are. And then if I want to remotely wipe that data off of that device, but still keep it in OneDrive or the SMB storage, I can do that directly through the product. So command and control over that data. I do want to spend just a moment on neurons. So I'm gonna move quick here. So neurons is log back in. Neurons is our SaaS platform that I talked about for managing devices over the internet. So built into the solution, I have the ability to real time be able to inventory my devices and see where they are in the world, and then drill into them and troubleshoot them. So there's a bunch of offline devices here, but there's some online ones. I can interact with them by running queries. So for example, let's say that I open up WinWord on one of these devices. Yes, Microsoft. Then I can say, where is WinWord running? Just run a real-time query. and then I'll get the results of that query back immediately. So we're going out and we're interrogating the devices, and we can see that HEPTA-03. That's the device that I'm logged in with XenTegra. Directly from here, I can run real-time tasks like stopping that process. Now it's closed. Furthermore, I could, and let me just pull up a different tenant here. Is I can actually pull up a device as an analyst and be able to interact with it. So here's that other device that I was logged into, DECA, which is the Win 10 device, DECA for 10. And I can administratively run actions against it. I can push out software, I can run scripts, I can create incidents, detect outages, and even do things like remote control of the device over the internet. So real time, we'll download the remote control client to that device, install it, initiate the remote control, and then you can see that we're getting a prompt for remote control. I can authorize it. So it's a great way to support your users over the internet or even on your network. There's also the ability to run queries. So see if BitLocker is enabled, for example. So a really powerful tool set that comes turnkey to be able to discover, manage, and secure your endpoints. So I know we're nearing the top of the meeting. Pete, I'll hand it off to you to see if you have any questions and could wrap it up.
Yeah, so it's funny, we're getting a lot of great questions. So it sounds like, James, I think you and I are going to have a post-planning session on getting you back on to dig deeper. So there's a question around how many modules does Ivanti have, and I'm going to say based on your products page, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 core modules, correct? But under the covers, you have how many products?
Probably about 20 products or so.
Yeah. And Neurons is one of your newer, I'll say strategies/products. And this is kind of bringing all the different use cases under one umbrella. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, what we're doing is we're taking best of breed technology and capabilities in our solutions, and we're moving them to the SaaS product Neurons, and we're also filling gaps and adding new functionality.
Okay, cool. All right, so final, kind of fun question, and I always like this question because it does always come up. And why, you mentioned GPOs earlier, and would you recommend using the workspace management to manage GPOs? Do native GPOs, a combination of both? What's your kind of your knowledge based on kind of interacting with customers, use cases, et cetera, around GPOs and how to manage them using Ivanti?
Yeah, that's a great question. The reality is that if you're using group policy, which just about every company is, you've probably gone through a GPO migration before, a consolidation project. It's expensive, it's timely, it takes a lot of time because there's so many policies in there. You don't even know who created them and what they do, and you have to go through that exercise of identifying that. So what I recommend to customers is look for an opportunity where you're already embarking on that. So if you're going through a domain consolidation, that's a great time to revisit the way that you're delivering policies. If you are looking at Intune, the reality is that you're going to have to change the way you do policy management. You have to look at something that works over the internet. If you're embarking on a VDI project, that's another scenario where you're going to want to change the way you're doing policy management. And so that's a great time. Any one of those or other sort of ancillary projects that you can attach to, that's when you can really start looking at a great way to transform policy management.
Well, yeah. All right. So great questions. If you got any final questions, please throw them in, because you get them in our chat dialogue, and then it does get recorded when I do follow-up. So our BDRs who call you back and follow up with you can reference some of the questions. Now, one question I'm going to take the liberty to answer is how does Ivanti tie into Nutanix, as an example, and the Nutanix product line? And I would say, it all depends, right? And it depends on how you're going to use Nutanix, right? Ivanti, the good news is agnostic from an OS perspective as far as, Windows 7 and Windows 10. And so you can shim in the various technologies, no matter if it's a virtual desktop, a physical desktop, etc. And Ed, I'll have to do a little bit more digging with James on how does it fit with Zyframe. Zyframe's a little bit more involved. I'm going to guess there is no integration, James, with Nutanix Zyframe, which is their hosted desktop as a service offering. Is that a fair statement?
I am not aware of one.
Yeah. All right. So Ardley, I'll do some follow up with you, but just keep me posted. But yeah, the simple answer is if you're an end user compute solution or you're leveraging a solution, Nutanix or Ivanti shims in very nicely because again, it's an agent-based solution. And in fact, I highly recommend it. AppSense has a long legacy in the end user compute space, which is now the workspace management, as does Res, Landesk, all the technologies under the covers have great tie-ins to the various technology you all use in the end user compute world. So again, any final questions, get them into the chat. That way I can dig deeper into with you on post follow-up. And Kevin, great question. I'm going to say the answer is no, and I'll save that one for maybe a question, conversation with you and I. But James, just to give you some insight, IGEL, as we all know, is a great endpoint solution, and arguably, if you can dumb down the endpoint, it makes it a lot easier. You guys are saying, hey, we can speed up Autopilot, so it is, I don't want to say it's competitive, but it's definitely something to keep in the back of Ivanti's mind is how do you work with some of these thin client solutions, in the future. All right, so let's do a quick wrap. XenTegra, who are we? Hey, we're a partner who works with Ivanti. But that said, we have a great bench of consultants and services and offerings that we can bring to you as a customer and potential client. Now, Andy, who's our founder and CEO, founded on two core premises. One, we want to be a great partner to any of our core partners. And two, we want to enable you, the customer, to get the most out of your investment. So again, yes, I can sell you Ivanti. I can help you get Ivanti up and running. And our specialty is going to fall more into the end user compute realm. So anything having to do with some of the topics we talked about today, and then we can pull in best of breed partners to focus in on some of the Landesk components and now Mobile Iron, right? So Mobile Iron's in the fold as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. If you want to see any of the partners we work with, go to partners.XenTegra.com. You can see all the various partners we work with and how we kind of bucket them. And Ivanti is a great partner of ours. All right, so I mentioned this earlier, bronco.XenTegra.com. How do you get into this drawing? Well, there's a few ways. The first way is, did you know that we have a managed service offering? So not only can we, sell you different solutions, we can also manage them for you. So nothing stinks more than getting a phone call in the middle of the night or on the weekend and having to support a call about Citrix or VMware or your end user compute environment. Well, why not defer to us and let us be your help desk? Or why not let us manage that offering? So yes, if you set up a consult with our managed service team, that will get you into the drawing for the Ford Bronco. Next, we have a full end-to-end, what we call micro assessments that we do. We offer an end user compute, VMware, Citrix, networking, and we're building a couple more micro assessments. Now, these aren't just, hey, we're going to tell you everything you already know. These are going to give you some back-end, potential solutions and give you some data to back it up. And we plug in various partners to help get some of this data. So again, these are about a half day to full day commit, depending on the size of your environment. And you get an anecdote with the very nice charts and diagrams and fun, food for thought from Randy and Harvey, our two SEs. So definitely recommend it. If you complete an assessment full end to end, that gets you into the drawing. And then finally, hey, are you hiring? Or can you get us in front of the people that are hiring? So staffing.XenTegra.com. We have a full staffing division. Hey, why do we do this? Well, why not? We have a great network of folks, but we also interact with a lot of great people along the way as we do what we do. So we have a full staffing division. We can help you do temp to hire, staff augmentation, and full-time hire. If you set up a 30-minute consult with Renee and team, that will get you into the drawing. So a lot here, but the most important thing is a lot of great questions today. We're going to be following up with you. If you want to dig deeper, we can, and that's the great news. So please take some time to say, hey, I asked a question, you didn't get to it. we'll follow up with you and we'll get you your answer. All right. So again, we can dig deeper, we can get a deeper demo, and we can work with James and team to get people on the phone that can answer your questions. So definitely take the time to follow up if we didn't get to your question, and we will be calling each and everybody on this today and send an email as well. So please don't hesitate to want to follow up. So final call to get your question into the dialogue. That way we have it. But as I do that, James, any final thoughts from your side?
Oh, we're doing some really exciting stuff at Ivanti. I really appreciate the opportunity to present with you, and I'm really looking forward to next steps. And XenTegra is a great partner, and we want to see where it goes, from here.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks to everybody for joining. Thanks to the panel for joining. And someone asked about the e-cards. We try to get those out within 24 hours. Again, we have to go through and we make sure you are who you say you are if you don't provide a business email. So please be patient with Megan and team. We are just doing right by our partners because our partners help pay for some of this. All right, so if you answered a question and we didn't get to it, please follow up with us as we reach out to you. I look forward to getting Ivanti on a future one because there's been a lot of great questions. It's clear there's a demand and a need. So Ivanti and team, James and team, I'll be pulling you back in the future. So keep your eye out and we'll schedule another date. And thank you for taking the time. And as I always say, thanks to everybody for joining, and see you all on the flip side, and see you next week, hopefully. Actually, not next week. Next week's a holiday. We'll see you the week after. We have Stratodesk coming on. I'm excited, and that's a great solution. So next week is a holiday. We're going to respect our veterans and give you guys some time to, focus and reflect. So holiday next week, back the week after, and then we got Thanksgiving. It's crazy. We only have 2 sessions this month. So I look forward to seeing everybody. See everybody on the flip side, and have a great day.
Thank you.